welcome everyone here, people in the city center of Riga, people that mostly of you I know as big professionals and actually testimonies of future, which is inevitable. Right. I congratulate you. Actually, with the thing, I think it's nice to be part of revolution. This we will find out during this debate, what kind of strategy we will take in this country. But it is something we can't change anymore. The wind is blowing right direction, and we should use it, I think. So how to use it in a smart way, how to maybe not take these mistakes which were taken already maybe by our partners somewhere around the globe or around this continent. So welcome guys, the experts who will come in the picture a little bit later. So first you probably also want to find out the situation in Latvia, or status quo we have. I think we still have a lot of status quos and not always the movement into a right powerful direction. And can I also invite that your hands will be needed. So your questions, your remarks, your whatever points you want to raise also for experts here. So each of the experts is actually mentioned in the program. So can I not waste my time by naming everyone, just to say that Dagnia Blumberga, as the professor of Riga Technical University, is actually coming into picture very quickly, and thank you for being so flexible as a professor and knowing and fighting actually for many years for these things that should happen and that should be reality today. But we are talking still as a future for this. So when each and all of you will speak, then I will introduce you from the very beginning. But can I start with also one reason why we are here? And this is you, Gati, I think. You've been, pushing for these decisions. We are, what? Not ready yet, or shy? Or what is the reason you think we are in a situation where we are? And this came as, you have to have a war in Ukraine, really, to hear your prime minister talking, we should do it immediately. Up until now, it was like, yeah, we should do it one day. Why not? Let's plan in advance. Let's do it, or maybe not with Estonians. Let's decide, la, 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 la. And now he's really pushing. Last week, he was nervous about having no wind energy in his country. So why such a change?
Yeah, it's really sad that we have the situation that we need something to happen really, really bad to have maybe some logical movements towards what we need to do. And I would oppose you in that we are telling only now that we need wind. In Latvia, we have the situation that we are talking already for more than 10 years that we need to have wind, but there is no actions actually there. Everything is like, yes, we need, but when it comes to do something, there is nothing happening. And this was even till these days, this is still the same situation that we are talking about, but we are not doing anything. It's Latvia's biggest problem at this moment. What will happen tomorrow? I'm not a fortune teller. I can't predict what will be tomorrow. Maybe it's also will stay in the talks. And there is also another point is there is no worse decisions what are made in hurry, because there are a lot of mistakes there. And we already, let's say, when we look on this social media, what's coming out, it's I think we are getting to wrong directions. Not too much
people who don't take decisions, but definitely behave as super experts.
No, at this moment, at this moment, we recollect that it's just like we are trying to move a little bit too far away from the democracy. Because, for example, the idea to get rid of impact of environment assessment is, I think, it's one of the worst ideas what I have heard.
No, but the government told that they should regulate it, that you should have this assessment instead of 2 or 3 years. You should assess it in not more than 6 months. That's it. That's the government saying. They are not getting rid of this.
Impact of environment assessment already is 6 months till 1 year. It's not 2-3 years. It's a question what happens after impact of environment assessment. As from my experience, I can tell it's already 3-year court. Okay. I'm in court regarding this one. And then, we are concentrating on the problem, what is not a problem, and we're trying to solve the problem, what is not problem, and we are avoiding to solve the problems, what really are. and what really can change the game. And this is a picture here in Latvia, what we have now. And let's see, we are still in negotiations with the government. The question is, will they listen to us or will they think as they do now?
Good, but then I should still ask you a big question about if we have this kind of promised money, like is double size of a European budget, which is the largest investment in this country for what, 2 decades already. And does it changes the situation? Because I remember you telling the world here in Latvia that, well, there are investors who are interested to put the money in, and they are not the European money, seekers. They are the ones who are going to do it on the basis of their own investment decisions. So now does it change the whole picture that government could even play the game with their own money, well, which is Brussels money, actually, German money. Thank you for German taxpayers.
Yeah, thank you for the question, but my sentence will be like that. There is nothing worse when government enters the private business.
You're liberal. It seems like you're very liberal.
They are damaging everything they can, and this is the worst. In Latvia, unfortunately, is also one of the worst things what happens when European money is giving money to Latvia. So there is business on acquiring European money, not making business as it should be done.
Okay, let's ask NGOs, the ones who should fight for climate change, for all these big things that you were fighting probably last Friday even, right? Was it? The big last Friday thing with Greta Thunberg and their funds in Latvia, if you were there, no?
Yes.
So what changed from the point of 2 years ago? Everyone admired. Greta was on the UN stage and saying, do something, don't be lazy. So what happened during those 2 years? Gatis is saying we were just talking. Does something, changes in the minds of those who always in Latvia, they say this famous sentence, yes, we should do, but not please in my backyard. So what about this? Does it changes at all in Latvia? Does it somehow regulates people's minds because of the war, because of the getting more and more green, because of the Green Deal of Brussels, for example?
Okay, thanks for the questions. First of all, yes, last Friday we were supporting the Latvian youth movement and then going on a small walk and then, let's say, shouting for climate justice and taking account of science into policy making. However, I think that, of course, there has been a lot of talking, but we actually need much more talking about wind energy, because what has happened now is that despite all crises that we have somehow experienced, there is a lot of hope. And I think also quite many good intentions put together in one basket surrounding the deployment of wind energy. So we definitely support the speed up of wind energy deployment, and we actually work towards the possibility of having entirely renewable European energy system by 2040, if possible. But however, we understand very well that this speed up that will necessarily encounter barriers. So sometimes also these optimizations proposals for specific procedures, they will fail initially. However, we think that it's something that must be done and that we all should contribute to that. Yeah.
Right. If you know the history of Greens, like for example in Germany, there was a famous Joschka Fischer, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the first Minister for Foreign Affairs of Greens. He was actually chaining himself to the was it a railway? So against the nuclear power, which is not green in his mind. Why? You would argue that the wind energy, which is still industrial, they want to put the big ones, the ones who, people in Tukums or in Dobele, they very much hate it. They did more or less the same kind of green stuff. The NGOs who are kind of fighting for climate, but no, against these, the technicalities it involves. So why something changed, you think, or it doesn't at all? You are just one of those minority organizations who support it.
No, thanks for those points again. But I think that let's say, this movement in Europe was, composed of climate and energy specialists and civic organizations. It's necessarily growing. So the voices are quite loud, and also the understanding is, I think, quite basic and fundamental that this energy transition is a fundamental necessity
Yes.
for every country, and that there are some problems with social equity, and also, let's say, sometimes different sustainability issues clash, but that it's something to support, and I think that, the overall optimism is somehow inevitable. Yeah.
So it's more. So Dagnia, I know you as a famous professor who told, don't do these mistakes, and we did them. I mean, connecting our Riga TETS 2 project actually to gas again. How can we be sure, but that by doing this investment this time, and this is quite a big choice for many decades to come, that we will not do mistake, that there will be not, new type of kind of green energy production, something in nearest 2 years? Should we wait 2 years more? Should we wait 20 years more? Or we should do it now?
In fact, it is very important to understand that it is not on that. Therefore, you have to start to calculate. And I remember this time in 2008 when we wrote to European Commission that natural gas TETS 2 is the worst thing what could happen with Latvia, and it was done. And now we understand that yes, it was really a mistake. With wind energy, we could do the same. We have to understand what we will do with excess electricity. And now we are ready for that because Europe is ready, and Europe is ready for accumulation of energy and electricity, not only conversion to thermal energy, but in electricity accumulation. And it means, and now we are discussing about biohydrogen, and biohydrogen may be, it will be for next 5-10 years, the future for us. But we need those wind energy generators in our forest, but we have to explain society. And what is done just now, 2 months ago, is that, in fact, there is rules of Cabinet of Ministers that municipality which will be involved in that, they will get some percentage, small percentage, but it will be for development of municipality, for development of people who are living in this municipality. And therefore, now we are really ready, and we have to understand offshore or onshore. And before 1 year ago, when National Energy and Climate Plan was for 2030 was ready, there was no onshore wind generators, only offshore.
Okay.
But now, with the crisis in Ukraine, we understood, yes, it is really, but when it was not included in this plan, it was a mistake, and now we are back and in reality, we return in the right position, and now what is important to understand, electricity which we will produce with a lot of wind farms, what we will do with this electricity, because network system has capacity. And therefore, I think that now we have to discuss not only about wind energy, we have to discuss about accumulation.
Okay, and let us discuss it, because actually the most important person for accumulation is Toms. Toms is the member of the board and head of... Oh, sorry, Aivars. Sorry, Aivars. Somehow... Maybe you could be both, Toms and Aivars today.
Whatever.
Can you? Okay, Aivars and Toms. But Aivars anyway is here. Toms will maybe come. Aivars is a member of the board of the Latvian Hydrogen Association. And Aivars, how serious we are. The hydrogen cars are not on the streets of Latvia, but electric cars are still there. Nevertheless, we hoped that these technologies will be kind of parallel brothers. Why should we trust that hydrogen connected or interconnected with the wind power is really the future? Let's hope for more sunny weather and install some batteries on the roofs. Why we should go your technology?
Just a couple of remarks what was said, because I would say it is, first of all, biggest problem if politicians try to pre-choose technology. That's the mistake number one, because technology neutrality should be the first rule.
Okay.
Second, market, and I would say, if we will build up the system dependent from only one energy carrier, we are screwed. That's the point number two. Because basically, hydrogen, same as an electron, is just an energy carrier from the generation to the end use. And as more resilient you can build up your system, as more stable is the market and for end users. So that's the basics. Therefore, if we not treat hydrogen with pre-described role, then this is just energy carrier. It's like small brother and big brother. Electron or molecule, whatever, as long as it gives the benefits to the end users. Because wind generation, yes, absolutely, as Dagny said, fluctuation of renewables is the problems. But if you can build up storage capacity and distribution network, then that's exactly what added value for end users. And it opens the markets and new opportunities for end users. So that's the, I would say, whole setup. Basically, if politicians are trying to skip away from the accepting name hydrogen in the policy framework, that's the biggest problem. Because basically, if you are looking on renewable directives, alternative fuels, energy efficiency, everywhere hydrogen is mentioned as enabler for all that. Basically, if we have enough renewable wind and the price is more or less, or let's say coming better and better, then only the supply of this renewable to the end users unlocks those benefits. And it also gives the opportunity to introduce those solutions. I can even proudly say that, yes, we are together with our most active member, Latvian, we are now working on decarbonization plan for TETs. Because basically, if you have this excess energy and you can produce hydrogen, you can start to mix hydrogen with natural gas and just simply burn it. Or start to look around where you can use with added value in transport, in energy supply. But basically, most important that you are having additional end-use opportunity. That's the point.
Okay, but can I ask you a point? Because more and more popular in this country or in this, I don't know, maybe continent, becomes these kind of, even my prime minister was quoting the idea that by having, you know, in small suburbs of this beautiful, very small town, if you compare it with different towns in this continent, many small atom reactors. It is like, wow, we never had one in Baltics, in the whole region of 7 million people. And now you will have in that suburb there, you know, and there and these. Who are these guys? Good guys? Should you include them in this nice family you were referring to, that you should have everyone in this family?
I'm not the judge for energy generation, I would say, remark. But my honest opinion would be why we are talking about nuclear things. Because anyway, I would say then we should assess whole lifetime assessment for generation.
Yes.
Then this is fair decision, and then understand the sustainability of those decisions. Because anyway, we are talking about our pockets. We are spending the money as society.
The question is, should we name them as a kind of green in this green family, or they are just different? Because now everything is green, is accepted, and everything is not green is like, bleh.
I would say, let's stay with the name renewable.
Renewable. Okay, you like
nuclear is not renewable, definitely. That's my understanding, because anyway, we have a waste. And again, anyway, nuclear, again, is very good at stable generation. So it's not just switch on, switch off. So therefore, this fluctuation is the same question. Where you put this when the grid is, when we are all going sleep at night? The question about energy storage is anyway on the table.
Okay, so you're going to sleep this night. Okay, good. Good decision. Now I'm switching to grid, and grid specialist is actually Gunārs. Gunārs Valdmanis represents as Executive Director of Latvian Association of Electrical Engineers and Construction, the builders, the ones who knows how to do it. Now we have like super interconnected Europe, even Baltics is included. We can switch off Russia if we want one day, maybe, or they maybe did it already themselves. Now, how this beautiful grid is actually ready, prepared, or should we again, upgrade it, or what should we do really to accommodate these super trooper big wind turbines, everything around the Baltics and around the continent, and all these hydrogen ideas, and do we need to build it everything from zero, or just a small upgrade?
It would be the second, I would say. Just a small insight into the history of Latvian grid. If we look at year 1990, just before the collapse of the former Soviet Union, the consumption in Latvian network reached around 10 terawatt hours per year, and the peak consumption at that time reached around 2,000 megawatts. So it's the peak consumption was almost twice as big as it is right now, and this yearly, let's say, distribution capacity of the transmission grid was actually around 30% higher than it is now. So this means that from the purely Latvian point of view, there is actually even more capacity right now than we used to have then, because we have additionally new power lines built within Latvian territory, Kurzemes loks, if you remember, yes. Also some smaller third interconnection between Latvia and Estonia as well, added new capacity to this direction. The problem is related with interconnections with other regions, because I think it's quite realistically there is no way that Latvia will continue, and the other Baltic countries. I think it's quite out of question that there will be any trade with the former Soviet Union countries, Russia and Belarus, after Latvia discontinues this synchronous operation with the former Soviet Union grid. I think politically and technically it's no longer, let's say, viable option. Even before the war started, it was no longer very much on the table of the grid operators. So the remaining question is how the infrastructure between Scandinavia and Baltic countries and continental Europe, so that means Poland. Approximately after 5 years, more or less, the capacity of these grids will be replacing the existing capacity with the former Soviet Union countries. From that point of view, we will be all right, even with the wind capacities. But realistically, looking at the time that we have remaining, there is a little chance that we will be able to fully, let's say, use this capacity at the fullest, so that we are having any bottlenecks. The main remaining problem is that actually that during this last decade, in general, the development of capacities for production of electricity locally was too slow. And wind is one of the, let's say, just one of the tools which will fill this missing gap between production and demand in Baltic countries. And it is specifically a painful question for Lithuania, which now is a country with the largest share of imported power. Latvia and Estonia is doing better, okay, with some fossil fuel, of course, but at least, well, it is something that can be used transitionally as a balancing energy to meet this wind energy, let's say, integration needs in the system. So I think the main challenge will be not only Latvia's decision, but regional decisions regarding capacities which should be built in the region to ensure that security of supplies remains sufficient. Regarding independence or operation without, let's say, cooperation with the Russian or Belarusian grid, it's a political choice actually, because if we look historically, every national energy system started off as independent, yes. And they were interconnected anyway somewhere along the development process. So technically they are with larger costs or larger hardships, but they are still operable. So it is now more of a question about the costs which society is willing to carry on. And the same goes for wind energy. Of course, solutions are available both for balancing and storing. It is a question how actually society is willing to respond to the actual needs of the power system, what are sacrifices that they are ready to make regarding reduction of administrative burden, which is, I think Gatis will confirm that it is mainly boils down to the local community. Because more or less municipalities try to let's say, respond to the feelings and sentiments of the people living in the surrounding area. So I from my point of view, this general view of the society regarding how much energy should cost and what are sacrifices that should be made is the main obstacle. It's not industry and it's not so much politicians, but it usually boils down to the end user. What are their willingness to accept some of the steps that must be taken?
Yes, but on the other hand, Gunnar, would you agree that as a free person, as a liberal person, as Gatis would admire, in the European Union, where the grids are interconnected in the whole continent, or at least around these 27 countries, and actually including Great Britain as well, so 28, why not? Should I be able to buy my electricity from Portugal or from Aberdeen, you know, Scottish energy, in the time of the good price or in the time of active wind in Scotland? Why not? Should I be offered this opportunity? And why not Gatis selling, for example, his wind energy to Portuguese guys if the price is good and there is no wind at that point in Atlantic Ocean?
Well, actually, it already works that way, in a way. If we look at the historic high price peak when in Latvia, and I guess it was 6th of December.
Oh my God, you even know it.
When we reached this historic price record of 1,000 euros per megawatt hour. Actually, if you looked at the electricity exchange at that time, this price was covering almost all of Europe. So integration works both ways.
Yes.
So this means if you want to buy a cheap electricity when it's cheap in Portugal, you need to have a good network.
Yes.
So that's fine with you. But you have to also bear in mind that the market doesn't work only for consumer. It shouldn't work only for consumer. It should balance out the interests of producer and the consumer. And this means if there is a sufficient, let's say, demand and demand and supply balance, and the price, let's say, settles at one. And if there is unfavorable conditions, then you should also bear this high cost of let's say, lack of wind energy in Norway, which we actually...
That's a whole balancing in the continent.
So yes, we can develop grids to, let's say, 200 of our capacity, which is actually, for Latvia, it is more or less already now. Our trading capacity with foreign, our neighboring countries actually exceeds our demand. If we sum up Lithuanian capacity, Estonian, and I even will not count in Russia, but even without Russia, we are, let's say, exceeding more than twice our capacity.
Of course, and you're right, we are not going to count on Russia anymore, right?
Yes.
From 1 month on. Anyway, let's count on our best friends in the wind farms of Aberdeen. There is a renewable energy, the family, let's say. And Mr. McIntosh, I'd like to ask you a very direct question. Maybe you are happy that we are so, lazy or late, that we didn't develop our capacities so far, because for sure, you can sell it for a better price. So why we are needed here? Because wind in the Northern Sea or in the ocean will be always more than in this small Baltic Sea, which is used to be actually a lake. Huh?
I think you have tremendous capacity to develop a wind industry in Latvia. And I'm listening with great interest to the debate. Listening with great interest to the debate today, especially around consultation, which is an interesting piece. I think that is very, very important. But to answer your question, I think, Scotland does have tremendous resources, as does Ireland. And it's the east coast of Scotland that's been developed so far, not even the west coast. But there are, obviously we have, like you, there are transmission challenges. So we do have at peak times of wind with the current amount of wind, the resource available in the current wind farms. We do have times when the wind turbines have to be switched off. And as a result of that, that we're seeing more and more companies looking at the opportunities around hydrogen, for example. And most recently, just last month, we had a new round of wind opportunities, a new leasing round called ScotWind. And it was oversubscribed significantly. They expected to get about 10, 11 gigawatts out of it, and they've got nearly 25 gigawatt in terms of offshore wind potential that came through that licensing round. And it raised something like 700 million. But most of that needs new transmission before it can be directly taken to Europe, new transmission capacity. So many of the companies who've invested, and you've got a range of investors from the traditional wind companies and the traditional utilities in Scotland, like Scottish and Southern Energy, through to new players like BP and Shell and Total Energies, who are getting involved in wind. But they're increasingly looking at hydrogen. And hydrogen, as already been said, is going to be play a key role in the future. And we invested in Aberdeen. We started with around about 2011 in developing a strategy of converting wind to hydrogen, in particular looking at nighttime wind and converting that to hydrogen. And it's good to see my colleague from Ballard here today, because Ballard were very, very strong partners with us in developing the opportunities around wind to hydrogen through our bus project. And indeed, we worked closely with Riga at that time in the City Council of Riga. So it's not a new thing. I know it's not a new thing that you guys are looking at in terms of the hydrogen opportunity, but the wind piece and how that relates to hydrogen could be really important. So yeah, we see an opportunity there for you, because really it's about, I don't want to get into the politics of it, but it's about European, the whole of Europe not getting away from the Russian link and the need to use Russian gas. And the resources there, and I had a group across in Aberdeen last week from your neighbours from Estonia to look at the same thing and to introduce them to wind developers and to the supply chain. And yeah, I've got no doubt that you've got huge opportunities. And yes, we want to encourage you to develop your wind opportunity. And anything we can do to support that, we'd be happy to do so.
Okay, thank you so much, because especially here in Baltics, when you mentioned that Estonians are maybe 1 centimeter ahead Latvians, you do a big progress into Latvia. So hopefully, next call, we will be better than Estonians, because we always are. We start a little bit later, but we are always better than Estonians, just for you to know. Okay, this is the good moment for Joe to come in. So Joe, maybe you can explain, by seeing this lake, or is it a shore in your background? It reminds me very much a very easy technology which I saw in Portugal. They are pumping back the water they are using for producing energy during the nighttime. They use the same, so it's much cheaper for them. They don't develop these super high and costly, and even some people are scared. They say dangerous technology of hydrogen. They say, sorry, we will, use our, water. That's the most easiest and maybe even ecological way. Why should we go this hydrogen always in a combination with wind energy? Is this really the only way how to store a sufficient number of energy, the amount of energy, and of course, we are living in the 21st century. Not Russia, but we.
No, it's not the only way. Pumped hydro storage for grid balancing is, as you say, very well established. You need a particular geography. I think the UK reached its limit on practical pumped hydro about 25 years ago. So it's a very valuable tool for grid balancing. And it's very efficient, round trip. It doesn't give you the flexibility on the demand side. So it's very good for balancing at a grid level. What hydrogen gives you is an opportunity to decouple demand from supply, and it gives you more flexibility about how the energy is used. It brings applications that are harder to run on a pure electrical supply, whether that's grid connected or battery, and gives you greater resilience in the total system. So when we talk about hydrogen, we are not talking about it as the answer for every problem in the grid. Absolutely not. The problem we have discussing hydrogen is it is part of the answer to many questions. It is not the whole answer to one question. And that's why we must think of it as part of the whole system.
But how serious we are actually at the point of, let's say this technological development, maybe the whole picture why people are a little bit like skeptical is that there is no full explanation, or we never, judged all the necessities and possibilities. Okay, you told that you already reached the maximum of your geography could be used. So I think in Latvia we never started that type of debate always. So put us some extra arguments, please. We will start debate with Prime Minister tonight.
So extra arguments for hydrogen as part of the energy system?
Yeah, why not?
We've heard some conversations about integration of renewable and particularly wind generation into the grid. There are two aspects to that I would highlight. Capacity. You have a new generating resource in a new area, you need new transmission capacity. And it's particularly with a very intermittent source like wind, it's about peak capacity. So if you are generating hydrogen at or close to the point of production, you reduce those peaks, you reduce the infrastructure barriers and the infrastructure costs. So it helps you there. It gives you an opportunity to then, as Gordon said earlier, generate hydrogen when your demand for electricity is lower. So it allows you to do some demand side balancing. Hydrogen on the demand side, on the use side, is also then enables the replacement of diesel. I mean, that is the easiest way to think about it. The applications that now use diesel because they are energy dense and need a lot of power and energy and fast refueling or recharging can very usefully be converted to hydrogen. Vehicles that run for, like some of our buses, which run for 20 hours a day, you can run on hydrogen, and then you have a fully green system that provides the same service as it does now. Hydrogen has many other uses other than transport. In heat, it can replace natural gas, in industrial energy, and as an industrial feedstock. So as I say, it's part of a whole system. It's not the answer to everything, but it helps you bring more renewable onto your network, and it helps you use the renewable energy in a way that, as somebody said earlier, the consumers are willing to accept.
Thank you so far, Joe. Can I ask this idea of sleeping in the night? I look to my good colleagues, they are sleeping in the night, but they told that someone should work, and it's Jean-Luc, right? Jean-Luc, you represent the one who works in the night. So it's a special idea by developing this bus that should be charged during the night, drive me during the day, no? Tell us, where is this concept of the organization you represent is actually Bamford Bus Company, which develops, I understand exactly this concept, that there is a hydrogen used in the most efficient way, isn't it? So it's a storage, but it is a bus, like a public bus in the same time. So why this should be included? Because we are a very, proud nation here in Latvia. We hold, I don't know if you even know this name for that type of the transport. We are holding the first ever hydrogen trolleybus in Latvia. So, okay, no one likes it. Everyone hates it, I see. But still, so we know the idea, but we can't kind of get this as a best idea, as a best solution into this new picture, new reality of how should we produce, how should we store, how should we spend energy. Jean-Luc.
Yes, it's a long question, and I think I have to start to tell that I think we are speaking about some different things. Hydrogen production is one. Yes. We can use it indeed for buses. And I don't know what you said, but I said immediately no. I'm coming from more than 15, 20 years of electric buses experience, battery buses. Aha. Now I'm for not more than 1 month, and I come back very quickly to my colleague Nathan here in the meeting.
Yes.
Now I'm brainwashed after 1 month, completely brainwashed for hydrogen buses. Why? I don't know what I've done all those 15, 20 years, because the most important thing with a hydrogen bus is that you can fill it as quick like old diesel buses. In theory, 5 to 6, 8 minutes, the bus is filled and you can operate a full day with your bus. So that is point one. Two, we can, of course, now speak a lot about wind energy. That's my other experience for more than 15 years. We should really know, guys, that one windmill can produce the same energy for a full fleet of 20 buses and more. We can make some figures. That should be done later, maybe in the meeting. So we are producing sustainable energy by wind. We are using sustainable something which is water, because we produce electricity out of water. What can we do more to be sustainable? You say about storage. Yes, we can produce hydrogen on the spot where we have to use it immediately, small installations. We can also produce it somewhere else and bring it on one trailer, for example, and one trailer can be available for 20 buses for a week, for example. Or last but not least, what we are discussing more now, it's the huge production of windmills, electricity, and that is, for example, 2.5 megawatt for one windmill. We can produce 6 million kilowatt hour per year. You know that we use 6 kilograms for a bus. If you transpose the 6 million kilowatt hour to the bus, we can drive with that bus 166,000 kilometers. You see, one windmill. Those figures are maybe too difficult and not on the screen, so I come back to the problem or the issue you mentioned. Yes, we produce as quick as possible electricity with windmills because we need electricity to produce our hydrogen. If I can conclude with that, and maybe Nathan will help me.
Nathan definitely should help, because Nathan, could you please help us with one struggle we are having? We are coming from Soviet Union when everything was regulated, and we admire liberal way. So now in this production and storage and usage, it looks like there are so many actors that you have to have some certainties, some regulations which you can trust, you can really rely. So how happy you are that we want to do as liberal as possible, because there should be a structure which is guaranteed and supervised by maybe government's decisions and, you know, long-term strategies and European grids and blah, blah, blah. So how liberal it should be?
In terms of the energy market, or in terms of the actual...
I think the new concept of having windmills and having hydrogen and having all these nice green stuff, which we definitely are keen and even obliged to go, and very quickly.
I think based on, I can only speak on the UK basis, there's obviously been a public and private partnership approach through this. The private sector have obviously come to this process over the last 15-20 years, but there's also been public sector funding to support this and to encourage the incentives. So, you know, based on our experience in the United Kingdom, you know, it hasn't been a completely private sector driven response. It's been both parties working together, and that's even been in a time of a conservative government who would traditionally be, you know, free market orientated. So from our perspective, it's obviously working in partnership between both parties.
And can you trust each pieces of this nice chain of production and storage and la la la? Do you see some weak points, some like technology bottlenecks which are not solved yet? One should pay double attention to something, because we are kind of introducing it almost from zero. I know it's not from zero in Latvia, but it seems like we will have a lot of push to do in the nearest future to really have a level of what I see in Germany or in Great Britain.
I can give an example of other markets.
Yes.
You look at Australia, and Australia have lots of information about we can produce hydrogen for less than $3 Aussie per kilogram, around £1.60, around €2 a kilogram, and they say they can do that, and that can satisfy the demand for all the bus network, or whatever you decide to utilize that energy for. But then you're in a situation where they said, if you give us orders. So, you know, the two things have to work in tandem together. There is a potential to achieve these low figures, which will create opportunities the private sector will then develop, but they have to be some level of certainty with that. So it has to work in tandem. So, you know, that's our view on that.
I heard that people in Great Britain always complain about weather. Can you put me in a perspective? I think we are more or less the same, complaining about less sun than we should have, and maybe even wind is not sufficient. So why, and can you put me this trust into people's minds, or maybe you guys who really know what you talk about as engineers in this picture, that we should trust more to wind instead of sun in where we live in Europe, in a kind of not the most sunny weather like in south of the Spain or something. So how should we measure these two technologies from the point of view of irrationality, of not this time, should wait, you know, not so good developments in these solar panels, or, oh, the wind is, you know, less than in, I don't know, Aberdeen, for example. So how you treat this, or is this normal to have these doubts and then in 10 years it's gone?
I think these doubts are somewhat natural, and they're also going to be driven by what is perpetuated in the media. You only have to look at what's happened in the United Kingdom over the last 12 years. There was significant funding for renewables through the ROC fundings, which allowed onshore wind generation. And then in 2012, this was disposed of. and also funding for solar panels was disposed of because the government believed they wanted to make more efficient, large-scale, either solar panel projects, hydrothermal projects, or offshore wind that Mandy has discussed. So there was then a perception that onshore wind and solar renewables should not be part of the solution. Now, just last week, now the Conservative government are now looking to regenerate that. But if you speak to people, the common person says solar panels are no use, and this probably will change again now that there is funding for them. So I think a lot of it's led by what subsidies and funding are available for the common person to create that trust in the chain. As I said, that's something we've seen over the last 10, 15 years in the United Kingdom.
Now, the bad news I heard as a journalist, always hearing bad news, Gati, and I want you to agree or disagree with me before we go to questions from the audience here. So it means that what Nathan just said, we are lacking 10 years. They lived through all these doubts and something in Great Britain 10 years ago. It sounds like this. 10 years is too much.
Yeah, I would say from 3 to 10 years.
Okay, you're nice, diplomatic.
There is something that we have more or less at least thinking about things what's happening in Europe. So that's why I can't tell you only 10 years. But of course, if we look for today, that we have, I think, one wind park now in Latvia who is developed, actually built. So the next will build not sooner than 2025. So there is already lack of new wind in next 3 years. It's already it's predictable. So yeah, so these 3 years and plus till 10, I would assume.
Okay. Not so bad news.
No, not so bad. No, of course. But we are a small country, and we need to be more flexible and more.
But from the point of territory of this country, we are not small at all. Huh? We are quite a big country in Europe as a territory. So the wind is, measured on a territory, not on a number of people.
Yeah, of course, Latvia has really great opportunity to be as a leader in wind energy. In the region, because actually if you see the main winds are coming from the Baltic Sea, and we are the country who is actually directly hit in the face from the Baltic Sea.
Superpower of Baltic Sea.
Exactly, and wind measurements what we are making already more than 5 years, they are showing that the resource here in Latvia is really good, even better than we expected in 2011.
This makes us happy because we have almost 500 kilometers of the shore in Latvia, but Lithuanians have only 33. Huh?
Exactly, and
yes, and good for us. So, okay, give a mic to your colleague, please, and then we go.
Just one comment. Yes. What was said, because I think 2 years ago that was published Commission's report. Renewables opportunity for Latvia. And the point is there was an analytical report where was clearly said that Latvia true potential is exceeding 50 times our own consumption. So this is, yes, and that was officially said, so that was estimate, okay, let's not speculate on that, but that was 371 terawatt hour, okay, in theory opportunity. But the point is, basically, if there is real actions for a market where renewables are really able to step into the game, and then technical opportunities of renewable distribution, electricity and hydrogen is fully used, then we can expect that we as end users can benefit. What I appreciate, I know Gordon privately almost 10 years, he was one of my also, I can influencers.
Oh.
Aberdeen case, no, that as I can say, I'm from last century in that market, but there is a professionals who had passed through all those lessons learned. They did demonstration of technology. They did assessment. They have a real life experience how to introduce those solutions to the end use. And I think that's what I appreciate, that embassies and that kind of exchanges and chambers of commerce we should use this opportunity to use those lessons learned and how to introduce that here.
Yes, that's a big question. So let us put this question right to auditories. Who has an answer? We'll get lunch for free maybe next time. So maybe your remarks, your reactions, your disagreements. Would be very nice to have disagreements as well. Maybe we are too optimistic. Yeah, please, and just name yourself. I should run with microphone to you.
Oh, it's okay, I can talk, I think.
Yes, but people online, they can't hear you then. Yes, please.
Yes. No, thank you very much, as I can tell. I'm German, but I'm a member of British Chamber of Commerce, yes. It was very interesting from my side about here. I think Mr. Fischer would go crazy when he would hear this, yes? Because he was 100, like Latvians would say, 100% correct, yes, with his prognosis, yes. And I think, Mrs. Peterson, you should act much more, and you should go forward, yes? And this all is only financially treated, yes? And we need this evolution, yes? It cannot go on like this. That first the money need to be shared, and first it need to be made this project, that project. We need to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. What a nice remark. One more? Three more? Someone who is shy? I can, push you a little bit. Not to be shy, please. Represent yourself. Just.
Hello, Carmen from Estonian Embassy.
Sorry for these rude jokes about Estonians. We are best friends. We were in Livonia for 4 centuries together. But Riga was our capital.
Yes, that's true. But I had a question to Tom Stamburgs, because you mentioned that government shouldn't enter the territory of private enterprise. Can you please elaborate a bit? Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Gati, I give you a microphone.
I will not answer on this question from my own understanding about this story. But it's, let's say, the last what happened with Ørsted project, with the Ørsted application in Latvian water territories. So European Union promised Latvia to give a bunch of money for Elvin project, and actually the private investor was rejected for investigating the territories. So that's why government shouldn't go where everything is working already. They would, I would appreciate if government is starting to invest money, let's say for hydrogen, because hydrogen today is chicken and egg question. If we will have a hydrogen let's say gas station filling stations, we will have cars definitely to see more in the cities. And of course, the filling stations are not built because there is no cars. And this is a question: what should governments solve? Not like enter wind industry where it's working everything already from the private capital.
Dagnia, can I ask you also for a small comment? You were doing this, and this is not Bulgarian or Greek. This is Latvian. No, I disagree. What was your point to disagree on this?
I have a problem. I'm sitting too close to hydrogen.
I can sit instead of you, and you come here, and then you can speak freely.
Yeah. I would like to little bit discuss about this hydrogen and production of hydrogen. In Riga, yes, there is a trolleybus with hydrogen. Yes. And this hydrogen is produced from natural gas.
Oh, come on.
Could you imagine we have in Riga industrial plant from production from natural gas. And now I am sitting together with the guy who told that it will be decarbonization if States 2 will use natural gas not in cogeneration regime, but in condensation regime. And it means that States 2 will work with efficiency 50% probably. And it means that natural gas will be used with efficiency 50% to produce hydrogen, or I don't understand how it is, because natural gas is used for TETS too. And
But what is your technical suggestion then? Why not to go to use hydrogen as a part of kind of green, what you say, green wash, instead of real solutions? We are kind of washing green it with hydrogen.
Let us discuss about hydrogen. Hydrogen is a very nice technology to use hydrogen, to produce hydrogen from excess of electricity from wind energy.
Yes.
It means that we don't know where to use electricity.
Okay.
There is some excess. And then we understand, okay, then we could produce by electrolysis hydrogen with not so high efficiency, but today's technologies, okay. And then is next question.
Mm-hmm.
How to storage? And storage of hydrogen, and hydrogen is
quite dangerous, yes.
Security question.
Of course.
And therefore those questions about 3, 10, 20 years, we had a project in our institute about biohydrogen production from photosynthesis process. It was 2005.
Wow.
A Nordic energy research project, and we worked together with Swedish researchers from Uppsala. We worked together with Danish researchers, and etc. Still, this question is
not solved.
And European Union is using a lot of money for calls in Horizon Europe for how to accumulate this energy. And hydrogen is only one of options.
Of course.
There are so many options which are in the raw.
Well, Toms, now you have to react, but can I also ask a kind of... Can both of you react, Toms and Aivars? Toms and Aivars. I don't know why. I don't know. I'm buying you Gatis as well.
I would say first remark, of course, and this is exactly the stereotype question. Let's skip Riga case because this is the demo project and it is as it is. And that was my point, what I said in the beginning. All value chain should be sustainable. It sounds ridiculous to use natural gas as a source of hydrogen to then burn it. This is stupidity.
Of course.
But this is exactly, no, but that's not was. Latvenergo is investigating how to accumulate renewable hydropower and wind power and then decarbonize. And that's exactly ignorance of the society, that there is just pickling up the facts, which is good to use today because disargue with the facts. That's one. Second, industry is more than ready today as everyone is talking, because tell you honestly, I'm always smiling about the safety issues. Hey guys, come on. Hydrogen is produced industrially more than 50 years. All the safety measures are far ready. Even vehicles, they have a full vehicle type approval. Let's imagine authorities who are giving access to the vehicle go on the street. There has been so many tests, so safety part is done. It is more, it's like monkey with hand grenade. Shit can happen if you allow that happen. But it's same safety on all industrial. Natural gas, same safety questions. They are solvable. The industry have all the measures and standards.
But tell me, why should I believe that, this 5% of raps oil adding to diesel and then you call it biodiesel, which is, also a big question, is it? And now no one wants to grow these raps anymore because they say, okay, in these 10 years we learned it a lot, so it's not really a solution, it's just a new, maybe transitional fragment of solution. So why should we trust that hydrogen is not a kind of small solution, since we are kind of searching for extra better solutions or something like this?
Mathematics will help you.
Yes, please, give me. Because I was very bad in mathematics,
because the point is, and that's what I said in the beginning, we should not pre-choose technology today. We should calculate every value chain from the beginning, because the point is, if I have an energy resource and I need to calculate solution, then I'm taking all the measures in this environment. And that's exactly the point. If I have a generation, then I'm calculating, okay, how it fluctuates with the end use. If I have this waste energy, how I can store it. If we talk about 1 megawatt-hour storage, I will say battery, guys. But if we need to talk about 10 or 100 megawatt-hours, there is another commercial solution, then there is hydrogen. And then we are talking to the end use. And same as the sample will be, if we have excess energy available, then again, to the mobility, there was mentioned, yes, there is battery cars, there is hydrogen cars, but both of them electric. Yeah. That's the point, only the way of storage. Yeah. But the point is, if we talk about private consumers, I would say, hey guys, don't waste your time. For small distances, is battery car better? But if we start to talk about commercial applications and big scale fleets, then hydrogen only becomes, because you need to calculate on total cost of ownership whole value chain. Starting production, storage, end use, refueling, all those facts taken in account. There is no silver bullet. But the point is that hydrogen as a solution, it is industrial solution, more or less. The question is that today's legislation is designed in the way that it excludes hydrogen.
We should design a better one.
Yes.
Yeah, Dagnia, you have your point on a point.
I have only one comment, is that we have to look on energy system like system, not a piece of puzzle, and maybe it will be in picture or no.
Yeah.
We have to look on this system together, because they have solar panels are coming very fast.
Yes.
What to do with excess energy?
Yeah, where to put it, yeah.
We have hydro energy for electricity. We have in the Jelgava, with this Gren now, not Fortum, but Gren.
Yeah, I understand.
They have
pellets.
25 megawatts electricity cogeneration plant. We have to look on all those things and not to get out one thing and say, oh, this is the best one. Yeah. And this is the main question.
Okay. Krista, you had a reaction, and then, of course, you, Gunnar.
It's just about the hydrogen, that it definitely has a place in this decarbonizing I'd say the energy system, but it's somehow a limited and specific one, and that would be specifically suited for, let's say, hard to decarbonize sectors like industry and also, let's say, freight transport. But whenever we talk about, let's say, domestic heating systems or also private transportation, then necessarily electrification would be priority. And also whenever we think about truly green hydrogen, we should also think about, say, our common target, which is fossil phase out, and then not so that the hydrogen and fossil gas, that these plans for developing common infrastructure, that they do not end up in stranded assets, so that the fossil phase out and the getting free from the gas infrastructure can progress on a faster pace. So.
Okay, I understand. Gunārs, from the point of view of what you want to comment, but I'd like to add you one more question. When I hear this 50 times a capacity you could produce, then why we are actually discussing all the rest of, solar panels or something like this? Just go for windmills and maybe hydrogen should be also there. Let's see. We should count the numbers. What is the most profit? Where is the business? Why should we necessarily put all possible technologies in a row?
Actually, yes, it will pretty much go in line with what I was going to talk about. But I think one thing we should do in these discussions, we should stop using such thing as we. There is no we, because there are private investors. It's Latvia and UK, or it's Gatis, or somebody else. But it is not a public money. Right. It is not for someone to, for an old lady in Bauska to decide what actually are
dead,
best.
by the way.
Okay, I'm sorry,
already.
Rest in peace, but anyway, if somebody is not investing in the technology or in the specific plant, why even we should be taking into consideration his arguments in favor, how economical this wind power plant or this solar power plant be? Sorry, but what is your contribution to that? Only saying the only right to decide for the society should be regarding only on environmental issues which are really of public interest, but the decision of private investor or company, and it's not even that important whether the ownership is public or private or state-owned, it's not that important, but really the decision to make for the investment in the production capacity from the economical point of view, it's up to the engineer to decide.
And what about, since we have some also diplomats here, and the ones who will probably measure the, let's say, the environment of business making in Latvia instead of, let's say, Baltic, other countries, would you agree that there is really a sufficient say and not exceeded say of these green ideas, of green NGOs, of local communities, of someone, you know, Tante Bauska, the famous aunt in Bauska, that she really hates it because she don't understand it and she's going to veto it, you know. Just veto, I don't like it, I don't understand it. So what about Latvia's society? Do they have this right of say, which is democracy, but still not to really stop everything? Because we had these few examples so far in this Tukums and Dobele region, when from the side of course, person from Riga, it seems like stupidity of these people to block it.
Well, from the point of view of legislation framework, Latvia has a sufficient, let's say, framework to secure reasonable development of such projects. But where is a problematic issue is decision making in the municipality level, because municipalities are obliged to hold out these public hearings, but these decisions by public, let's say, consultations, they are not binding, really. They are not legally binding to the municipalities. However, many of the municipalities consider them binding, and therefore it happens as it happens in case of largest wind power projects, that they are stopped without any real, let's say, technical justification for this decision. It is purely economical. What is the problem in the model of democracy of Latvia, and not only Latvia? I think it's a problem for all of sides. It is that this responsibility between the state institutions and investors and the local community is very uneven. Actually, local community doesn't have to prove anything to anybody. They are able to tell most blatant lies that you can imagine. They can even blackmail you, do whatever they want, and they do not have any responsibility about anything at all. I have heard that publicly people voice actually some things that we actually in any, let's say, in even primary school books, you can find out that they are telling some things that are complete lies, actually, yes, but they don't bear any responsibility for it, and that is one of the problems, that politicians currently lack capacity to make the decision which is, let's say, sustainable and actually necessary from the environment point of view, but unpopular. Because if we see at most environmental decisions, for example, such as sorting of waste, for example, plastic, there was always opposition towards this, significant oppositions. People were resisting the fact that they have to pay actually for garbage. They insist that they don't want to have modern these wastelands, or the polygons, yes, for waste, and so on. People don't want to connect to the centralized heating system, sewage system, and so on. So the popular decision is not always the most environmentally sound and sustainable. So that is one of the problems, that sometimes actually politicians need the capacity to accept, to adopt some decisions which are not popular, not the cheapest, but they are, let's say, environmentally most sound. And this is a case, I think, with windmill decisions that people, it is actually a political decision to decide what is more important, clean air, sustainable development, or let's say this site which you are seeing outside the window, how polluting it is. It is actually, say, very, very, some people don't like windmills even from the 10-kilometer distance. Does it mean that actually you have a right to decide for everyone else how this landscape should look in, around your house for 10, 20 kilometers, 100? Where is your authority? Why you are? Why some of these people are feeling that they have special rights?
But when you invite people to come to elections and they really are not very keen to come, then you say, yeah, this is your obligation. You are, you're just one single vote counts very much. This is democracy. Please participate.
Yes, but on the other hand, we have a very specific, let's say, right to own a property and to use a property, and this is where we have, let's say, our borderline.
Yes.
How much we are able to impose our taste, let's say, or our priorities regarding how the landscape around us should look. Somebody doesn't like maybe urban environment, yes, as a site. Somebody doesn't like very wild, actually. Somebody likes industrial landscape. But in many countries, it is considered, any human activity is bad. For example, any industrial, let's say, landscape is bad per se, and there should be only wild forest. But somebody still have to supply us with lucrative jobs. And
I'm not going to pay for this. Yes. Someone has to, but I'm not going to pay.
So this is actually at the core of this debate and sustainability of energy supply. Actually, society's readiness to accept certain human activities that must be done to ensure human, let's say, quality of life and environmental sustainability.
Of course. Any reactions, comments? Someone who wants, because I got you, if no questions, to react of your own comment, then in the time of war, this is not the best time, this hurry, this nervosity to make right decisions. You've been pushing for these decisions when there was no war. Well, beside occupation of Crimea 8 years ago. Now, why not to use this hurry? Because now there is this stress. Everyone wants to get rid of Russia, and there is a kind of solution to win energy. Let's go, let's run, let's invest, let's push, let's, ask government to, do what they have to do in this business. Not invest, of course, but do their own regulations and quick ones, please.
No, it's just like in morning when you open your eyes and then you see that you have something to do in the morning, in opening eyes.
Yes.
And in this question, always, as I told you, it's not like I'm not saying that we are more concentrated on wind energy, but the mistakes can be made really easy if we are in hurry.
But here we have Germans did it 30 years ago. Just go.
I would say
ask in Hanover. They made their mistakes, so there is a list of mistakes. Don't do these. Do your own.
Exactly. There are a lot of mistakes, and of course we already foresee as an industry, we foresee these mistakes, and it looks like the Latvian government wants to try the same mistakes also here in Latvia. And this is our
German mistakes in Latvia doesn't sound good.
It is a lot of things. Okay, it's too short time to explain all the mistakes, but I need some 2 hours just to make you a picture a little bit. How does it? What are the mistakes and so on? And I want just to argue about the society. Yes. it's not like in Latvia that the most of the society is against wind industry. We in association every year make a survey on acceptance of wind energy
in the whole territory.
In whole Latvia, of course, we are asking for our SKDS from Ansis Bogustovs, who is
very
authority,
prominent one,
very prominent thing. So that's why it's a legit this survey, and there is 80% of Latvian society are for wind industry. So we have maybe in Latvia a little bit poor understanding of democracy, and in democracy there is such a worst point of this that minority has to accept majority's wishes.
One of the definitions of democracy is exactly that this is dictatorship of minority. So you don't accept that definition. That democracy should always accept minorities.
Let's say, listen to them, not
okay.
like always have
but
their
not
decisions.
Decide as they
exactly,
want.
Exactly, because we need to, it's always a question, life is a question of compromises. And this is the answer.
Okay.
If we are concentrating on the minority, we are, let's say, leaving majority. And then it's a question. We have war, we need energy, and we allow someone to block it. I'm not saying about arguments. I'm saying about block it with no arguments, actually.
By being a kind of green country, at least we feel that we are one of the greenest. Some are doubting even this. But this makes kind of problematic to achieve these Green Deal achievements to be achieved in Europe. Or you think it's not poisoning? So the Green Deal, how much it helps or really matters in this? Because it's a kind of a very strong push.
I would say I'm the kind of entrepreneur who is saying any crisis is opportunity, not a problem.
You must be Chinese then.
Maybe, yes. I don't think it's from China. But anyway, and this Green Deal actually is a little bit eye-opener for us. Imagine yourself, the fossil fuel has worked for more than 100 years to come to this point where we need to understand, yes, okay, it was wrong. We need to make a step back and now to go maybe the green way. And then there's a question how you use, as a country, as a nation, how you use this opportunity to step back a little bit, to, let's say, to came to the same point where every country is coming, and then how fast can you move forward? And looking on Latvian wind industry development in Latvia, we are far behind.
Yeah.
Even our closest neighbors, not talking about the world or something like that.
Well, congratulations.
The small Denmark had made a really, really big step.
Well, you know it yourself.
Yes,
the small Denmark had Vesta, and Vesta are the most producers of windmills.
Exactly.
Come on. This is different story. This is their own national proud.
But they made it in 90, when there was the oil crisis. Well, there was. So this was also a question how they entered this crisis situation, and they won.
Okay.
They have, as we like in Latvia, they say they have their own Nokia now. They have the wind industry supplying all the world with a wind.
Drinking champagne.
Why shouldn't we be the hydrogen country in the world? So it's a question.
Yeah, we should. Why not, Aivar?
May I elaborate what Gatis said? Honestly speaking, because that's what was said. What we matters how much do I pay for kilowatt hour? That's honestly what matters to me as a citizen. And as was said, why we are trying to choose something? Yes, I agree that society should have opinion and the rational, but basically engineers should be the one who should decide. That's the one. May I ask to put my slide on the screen and I will explain?
There was actually the slide already. You didn't notice. It was a very nice slide. We will put it now.
But the
great one.
The point of that is, if we are creating, and that's coming back to the legislation framework and wind, if there is a legislative framework which allows wind to be developed, and then they need to sell their kilowatt hours to the end users, that's their problem. How much they will make earnings? But we are not giving feed-in tariff. Everyone what was screaming in government. So this means no support, but market rules. Go. Here is no restrictions, no barriers. Build it and give. Then hydrogen gives this opportunity. First of all, renewables fluctuation. What was said? storage, but coming back, resilience of the energy supply. This is something what is very hard to assess for society, because basically if I'm as let's say, weekend guy, I can say, I don't care about that. I want to, at the weekend morning, switch on my TV. I want energy to be supplied to my house. I don't care, is there hydrogen or electrons? I need energy supply. Therefore, system should be designed in the way that all this is allowed. First of all, legislation that wind guys can build it up and provide as cheap as possible for market energy. Then system is designed in the way that all this energy is distributed for end users, designed in the way that storage, resilience, and supply is balanced, because that was also said that energy distribution should be designed in a specific way. It is a win-win situation for both sides. And then end use. And basically end use just to adopt their understanding and needs for technological opportunities. Basically, yeah, as was mentioned, so heavy-duty vehicles can be decarbonized by that way, but we need the legislation inclusion of those technologies which are today on the market. And that's, as Gatis said, if there is behind Hydrogen Europe, where I'm also one of the members of the board, we have more than 300 industry members, not the small ones, the big ones, including car OEMs, everyone. They are saying, we have invested the billions in this industry, and industry is ready. But please remove those small sentences from the laws that this can step into the game and provide the benefits to you.
Okay, thank you. I have one question, Krista, which is kind of social democratic question. And the question is about maybe there is another way how to adapt yourself to reality, that when there is a wind, you can turn on your, let's say, fabric. So, which means, you know, 100 years ago, people established 3 shifts because you cannot stop a steam machine, you know? You have to produce a day shift and night shift and one more shift. So why not to organize ourselves without hydrogen, without all these problems, how to store it? And if there is a windy day, then all of us, we go to our fabric and produce whatever we should produce. And if it's sunny day, then if it's enough with solar panels, let's go. And if not, then it's, you know, day off, just free day. I don't know, because there are some crazy people who says that the whole structure of society of producing things should be actually developed on a basis of really as green as possible. So don't even buy something. So not to buy a part of it as a waste, you know, package or something like this. So try to escape as much, you know, reduce all the kind of things around it.
Yes, I agree with you very much. And actually, I'm surprised that hydrogen takes a very, let's say, a very important part of this discussion. However, because I think that it does matter for future, it does matter for business, but nevertheless, the wind energy itself, it's strongly connected also to ideas of energy democracy and energy communities, and then ways how to share and distribute energy among, let's say, community members in geographical proximity, but also establish virtual communication links, and in a way...
Yeah, but this very much reminds me social democracy. You are obliged to sell your heat, which is part of your production, to me as a neighbor. So why? I should sell it where it's better price. So why should you regulate on a basis with all these nice wordings of energy democracy or something? People wanted to do a business. That's it.
No. Business is okay, but just in European Union we have the clean energy package, and let's say also.
What does it mean? I never read it. What it is about?
Legislative proposals for reaching the energy and climate targets of the EU, and also there is an ongoing initiative among all national states to transpose the renewable energy directives and also the directives of.
Which means that more and more, even these gentlemen hate the idea. It will be regulated more and more in future, or not?
No, but I think just some kind of new liberties, new rights regimes are in there, and they are oriented towards prosumerism, also towards distributed energy generation. But one important just thing that together with renewables and efficiency comes the third pillar of sustainable energy systems, and that's efficiency. There are research projects.
Should we switch off the lights or be too efficient?
Yeah, maybe if possible. Or
okay.
But just that, how to actually reduce the demand side. So we think that we are still in short of electricity for electrification for fossil fuel dependent energy systems. However, in the long term, we should think about all these activities, about customs and just things, how society works, how we lead our daily lives, and where there are possibilities of intervention for reducing energy demand, but in a socially fair way.
So you believe, even though for last decades we proved that the waste hill, the iceberg, you were actually drawing yourself in your own organization. I remember it like 10 years ago. You were showing us how big is the iceberg of the waste. And we know that the welfare, the growth of welfare in each country, and all of us, we want to live better and better and better and better, is always coming on a scale, the scale of wasteland comes bigger and bigger. Now, in the terms of energy, you think in the future we will manage to sustain our welfare better, to develop it, but actually to spend less energy.
In a further future, definitely, because we are also working on scenarios how to reduce the demand on a whole European scale.
How much you can reduce? 10%?
Well, I cannot give you the numbers yet because our scenario is not ready yet. But I think that currently we're still definitely advocate for much more wind energy just to push out the fossil fuels. And that's the first, like that switch must happen. But simultaneously also these demand reduction policies must come in because there is at the same time also, let's say there are more things what we use energy for. So to balance it, not to run out of ecological boundaries, we still should think how to, let's say, make the industry less energy consumptive, perhaps, yeah.
So the wind energy one day during your lifetime, I suppose you will live 120 years, for example, no? So 50 more for sure, huh?
Well, I hope to reach the net zero at least.
Okay, good.
Good,
okay. So if we reach this point, what will be, let's say, role of wind energy? How do you see from the point of view of green NGO?
Well, there's a lot of planning to be done because their siting issues are difficult, but I think that wind energy has a place in most of the landscapes that we know. However, there are these questions of social acceptance and also landscape ecology, and there the key words are also co-ownership and these co-benefits, and also biodiversity, because sometimes also wind energy can help increase biodiversity values on a local level when you start to think how to provide, let's say, more habitats for different species. So it's not only destructive towards landscape as it is, it can also invite new values, and there's a lot of opportunity. However, we will necessarily encounter barriers as well.
Right. So it was in Scotland actually when this was decided. The last decisions were taken, right? So let's ask Scottish friends. So what about you guys? Let's start with Mr. McIntosh. What about you? What do you think will be the role of wind energy in 2030? Right? You decided to live up until 2030, Krista. 50, you want 2050. Okay, so Mr. McIntosh, wind energy's role into achieving these goals, or, well, by the way, can I remind you that we never achieved the goals we set up before? So maybe you are so skeptical that we will not.
Yeah, well, I think wind will play an important part, but it will only be part. It's interesting today that no one's mentioned tidal or wave, which is, it's a little bit behind in relation to wind, but there's loads of technology being developed on that front right across Europe. We're part of a European group called Europe's Leaders in Blue Energy, and the number of companies that we have in Europe now investing in wave and tidal, so don't discount that. And of course tidal and to a lesser extent wave, but tidal is very predictable and can balance alongside wind energy to even out some of those demand maps. And solar will play a part as well. It's interesting that I'll maybe mention it later as well, but Aberdeen City has recently entered a joint venture with BP to produce hydrogen for our double-decker bus fleet from our friends from Ireland that we have now. And that is coming from solar. There's going to be solar in Aberdeen, so if you can produce, solar is going to play a role in the whole energy mix as well. So, don't think wind is everything. It's going to be an important part of it. Hydrogen's going to be an important carrier, but there are other methods of storage as well, and battery will have a role to play. There's tremendous innovation in relation to battery, but wind will play a crucial role in all of that. And in the longer term, we will see further developments along various fronts in relation to energy. Because the one thing we all know is we need energy and we need food. Those are the two crucial things in life.
Of course. Since Jean-Luc probably wants to run far away, you want to give us a number or still keep with this idea of Maddie McIntosh to say, well, important part, but how important? I'm as a journalist, I want to give us a number. So 10% of whole energy that will be produced in 2050, will we produce it out of wind in Europe? Jean-Luc?
No, sorry, I have to disappoint you maybe, but it will be much more.
Okay.
Thank you. If you see already nowadays, of course, I'm a Belgium-Luxembourg one, so if you see already nowadays what is installed between the Belgium side and the UK side in offshore, if you see what the Nordics already are producing, we are more than 10%. So let's go that we have at least 50-60%. But
50-60, wow!
Figures, before leaving this, it will be following. There will be always that sustainable energy there where we can produce it for the best TCO model. We will have water, we will have wind, we will have sun energy, we will have even future-minded energy as long as it is sustainable. I think all the meeting was started by, should we install wind energy? I would say yes, in Latvia. If you have also possibilities and huge investors, don't forget it is PPP, private and public business. If you have those people who can install sun energy in your country, well, let's do it. But calculate. At the end of the day, you calculate your TCO model. And of course, we were talking today with the Bamford bus company. We were talking about electric buses, but I come back to the lady. Of course, we are producing energy. We are producing electricity, yes, and we use it. We use it even the home. And not only as electricity, you have also places where, and then I come back to the hydrogen, you are using hydrogen for heating homes in some places. So it's all together. Hey guys, it's producing energy by wind or by sun. And I thought today we would talk about wind energy and windmills. I still have my figures to tell you that with one windmill, we can do 166,000 kilometers with one bus. In a bus, you can put 100 people and you can go from A to B all day. That's the topic, sustainable transport. But I can speak about other things as well if you want. But today it's producing energy with windmill. And in 2050, you will see, I hope I will be there, to tell you it's more than 60%. Look around you. In Europe, you cannot drive 1 kilometer or you have seen at least one windmill, at least down in Europe. So tomorrow, you will have more and more and more windmills, but you will have also water energy, you will have solar energy, but you will not have any fossil energy production. Full stop. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Jean-Luc. Of course, Joe, we want to hear your optimism in this. Do you share more or less the numbers of your colleagues were given? And we hope also, of course, to meet you in 2050 to see if this will come as a reality, which you will now predict. Please, your prediction.
I agree with the prediction of Jean-Luc. I think the lesson from the last 20 years is that these technologies, the tipping point comes when the cost comes down. The costs are lower and more reliable now, even before the war, than on the fossil fuels. And that's what really drives it. You need to get the market going to begin with. There are choices that will still be made. They will largely be economic choices about how energy is shared around countries and regions and continents. We see there's a huge potential for very cheap energy from the Middle East and North Africa, from solar. Will Europe use it or not? I don't know. But there will be a huge amount of wind energy in Northern Europe. And there will be, I expect, no fossil energy. Wind energy is just better.
So you think no fossil at all?
In 2050, I'm absolutely confident. I think it will come sooner than that.
Okay, you give me one of the nicest news of today. Thank you. So hopefully, we have this saying that whatever you say should be heard by God. So hopefully that happened just now of what you said, the last sentence. Thank you very much. So whatever you said is recorded. Now we will use it against you and, of course, in favor as well. Thank you for being active members of this nice occasion. Can I also mention that we should be extremely thankful and grateful to Jānis Čakstīņš, who was a private sponsor of this event as well, and of course the Department of International Trade of United Kingdom and the Wind Energy Association of Latvia. But there is one person who actually did our, nicety of the day, and this is Ilze. So Ilze, maybe a last sum up of what you learned today and what you find out, and even sharing diplomas. Okay. I will hold you, Mike, so you can speak freely if you want, or hold it yourself. You decide.
Well, I will not say what I learned and what I did not learn today. I would say that on behalf of the British Chamber of Commerce in Latvia, Irish Latvian Chamber of Commerce, and Swiss Chamber of Commerce in Latvia, we are very grateful for having this event. Actually, this is the very first time we have a hybrid event, and I think that it was good. And of course, there are usually some small failures, but this was really the very, very first time, and we hope to proceed with that in the future, because that's a very easy way how to have people here in Latvia and people from abroad, like Ireland and England and Scotland, so we can unite in such a format. I would like to say thank you to the panelists and thank you to our moderator. And I would also like to apologize on behalf of the Minister of Environmental Protection and Regional Development for not being able to be here today, because he was called to the meeting with the President of Latvia. And unfortunately, he could not be, but he had promised that the next time, and hopefully in the very nearest future, we will organize some discussion again, and he would be able to attend it. The problem is with all the state officials that if we book the date long time before, and this time it was in January, we booked the 30th of March, there usually changes. So next time we will do it in a very short notice, and then hopefully we will get it in a better way. But we had Dagny Blumberg, who was very kind and who really agreed to be here and give her opinion. And usually professors usually have a very great input in any discussion. And thank you guys very, very much from abroad. Great to see you and also being part of this. I'd like to give... I need to get, you hold it. Thank you. Well, Toms Nauburgs was not here. Gatis, you will get, okay, you can have Toms, but you will get yours as well. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Ansis will be the last one. Krista. Thank you very much. Gunārs, thank you very much. And Aivars, thank you very much.
And of course, we should send to our friends in UK now electronic one. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and we will send electronic ones to the friends in as I said, in Ireland. Nathan was from Ireland. John Locke is from Brussels. Joe is from Scotland. And Mandy is from London, yeah?
Sorry, it's Gordon from Scotland. It's my wife's
also
name.
From Scotland. Okay. Thank you very, very much. And now you can have some networking, some coffee, and let's see you again in the next event.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.